Mr. Williams, it's wonderful to be here with you today.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
So I've heard you've been in real estate since you were 19, and you started selling homes as a sophomore at the University of Texas in Austin. Let's go back to the beginning. What made you get into real estate in the first place?
Actually, you'll love this story. So, when I was a senior in high school, in the old days, when the earth cooled, what they would do is put you in a study hall for 3 hours. There were no AP classes. So I didn't want to sit in the study hall for 3 hours. So I went into what they call distributive education. What they allowed you to do was to work in the afternoon, and you got credit for being at work. Well, I worked for a wonderful Jewish family, Mel Always. He had a toy store in San Antonio, Texas. And that's where I learned to sell. Because if anybody knows how to sell, those guys know how to sell.
Wow, that's amazing.
So what happened was they had a contest. The University Interscholastic League, UIL, had a contest, and one of their contests was sales demonstration. They gave you 10 minutes to set up and then 20 minutes to sell. And so basically you showed your skills. I did very, very well. In fact, almost won state. Kid that beat me sold tires, but man, he was really good. So I'm okay with that. But it proved to me that selling is indeed a good skill. So my mother, at the time, managed beauty shops. Today you'd call that a hairstylist. And when you think about it, her most consistent customer was the female realtors that worked all throughout San Antonio.
Wow.
So as my mom would obviously very proud of her son, and I gave her the award, it was sitting up on the desk, and they told her, Bertie, you need to get that boy in real estate. And so one day my mom came home and said, honey, have you ever thought about selling real estate? And that's what kicked it all off.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing.
And you studied real estate at the University of Texas. Do you think studying it as a formal education gave you a leg up versus other competitors or other people in the industry?
Here's what I would tell you. I don't want to shock everybody, but what happened was I was in San Antonio, actually at junior college, when I started in real estate with a broker that I knew, who, by the way, was a customer at the store.
Wow.
What happened was, when you get to 60 hours at the junior college level, you need to get onto a major university. University of Texas, at the time, had just started a real estate program in the McCombs School of Business. And so that's how I ended up in Austin.
Wow.
And as much as I would love to say it launched my career, what it allowed me to do was to marry up. Because I didn't necessarily need the degree to go sell real estate. I was already successful at the time. But what I learned is real estate is very much a street business. You learn it by doing it. If you want to get good leasing properties in New York, downtown Manhattan, then get out there and start doing it. The more you do, the better you get.
Yeah.
Now, success has a lot more to do with your ambition and other things, but in terms of having the training, it was great learning from a lot of those professors. But most what you learn is getting out there and making it work.
Wow, that's amazing advice to probably anyone. So let me ask you, we're at the Red Awards here. We're in a room full of some of New York's top professionals, and you're not a New Yorker, but you're one of the country's top professionals. How would you say that real estate within New York is different than real estate outside of New York City?
Well, here's what everybody who is in New York and hears me say this totally understands. New York is its own microcosm. There is no question about that. You've got some really good firms. They've been here for years and years. They built up a lot of clientele. And so they tend to work within their own area. If you get outside of New York and, Queens and Jersey City and all of these areas, they function very differently than what you would have down in the Midtown Manhattan area. But the reality is a lot of the basics still apply. You still got to have good data. You still got to have good relations with the other brokers themselves. And what I've found is, as much as they think they're different, in many, many ways, they still function like a group that would be a member of a board of realtors. They still function the same.
Gotcha.
You still got to have the knowledge. You still got to have the drive. Like they say, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And if they're not coordinating with each other, as much as other brokers might through a coordinated MLS system that you see around most of the country, it's very, necessary for them to have close relationships with each other. That's the real difference we see.
Wow. So you are obviously Mr. Williams, the founder of Keller Williams. You
Co-founder.
have co-founder of Keller Williams. Pardon me. You have over 200,000 agents working under your umbrella.
Right.
You're probably the most qualified person to ask this question to. Where do you see the real estate industry in 5 years?
Here's what I would tell you. Real estate is, number one, it's a very local business, okay? So you really have to understand that. Real estate in Midtown Manhattan is totally different from Miami, totally different from Dallas, Texas, totally different from Scottsdale, Arizona, other than the fact that the buyers and sellers are there.
Right.
But the processes and the things they do can change. However, real estate has done extremely well all across the United States because home ownership is a driving force. You know, I remember years ago when I can't remember who it was. She said, well, the millennials, they're not really going to buy homes. They're going to want to rent. And I'm thinking, you're not in the business, ma'am. You don't understand. The minute they start having kids,
Right.
they're going to want some
yeah.
space. And that's exactly what's happened. The pandemic sped that up with the digital transformation that's occurred. Everybody is doing everything they can to adapt to a new office environment. And it is going to be very different. However, real estate tends to work in ebbs.
Yeah.
Cycles up, cycles down. And what the gentleman said here tonight about the fact that prices are low now in New York, but you watch them in 3 or 4 years, what's going to happen? They're likely to go back up. So I don't think it's going to fundamentally change that much. Some industries, AI, technology, are really going to impact. But real estate's a very physical business. I may look at your listing on, Matterport or VR technology, but I'm likely to fly in because I physically want to walk through it. I physically want to see that neighborhood. I don't think that's going to change. Home ownership is just such a strong driving force.
Absolutely.
There's going to be a need for real estate people to be out there to help put it all together.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Williams, tell me, what is the award that you are here to win tonight, and what does it mean to you to be part of such an amazing community of real estate professionals?
I would tell you it's fun to come to New York. We didn't come. I think I made my first trip to New York 15 years ago, and I had my young son and my daughter. And, of course, we're all native Texans. And after 9 days of doing the touristy stuff and meeting all the people, getting down to Times Square, hitting the museums, I asked the kids, well, how different do you think they are? And my son looked at me, he said, Dad, I think New Yorkers are just like Texans.
Yeah.
Texans are very proud of their state,
Oh, yeah.
but New Yorkers are very proud of their city.
We are proud of our city.
And there was a lot to identify with them. So, it just gets back to the fact that people are people are people. And I think the people in New York, they're very resilient. They're very good about taking a setback and coming right back. And so for me to get the award from Red Awards, I appreciate that they looked at the long history of what we've done and said, hey, we think that's worthy of a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I appreciate them thinking that way.
Well, of course, congratulations on your ongoing success.
Sure.
You've built such a huge business, one of the most powerful real estate business in the country, maybe the world. What would be your advice for an up-and-coming entrepreneur who's building a business in real estate or otherwise?
What I would tell you is most great enterprises tend to revolve around 4 basic concepts
Okay.
that you have the ability to get them working in synergy. And if you're an agent today, that first synergy is, why are you in the business? In other words, what's your big why? Why are you making the adjustment? What is it that's driving you to become a self-employed person like this? And if they really got that vision, then it's easier to acquire the discipline that you need to plan out every day where it is you need to be and what you need to be doing. But that's number one. Number two would be go acquire the market knowledge that you need. Real estate is all about values. What drives values in an area, whether I'm in Queens or, I'm in North New York, Hudson Valley, what is it that's driving those values? And most of the time you'll find it's public data. It's available. It's school districts, it's jobs, it's supply and demand, it's city policy. Those things are learnable, but if you're going to be successful in real estate, that's the second thing you really need to concentrate on. Because when I call you, I want somebody who's incredibly knowledgeable about the values in the area. Third thing would be a lot of real estate people now work a lot with teams. And it's a matter of understanding how you plan your week, how you plan that success. And in a lot of cases, it's working with other people. So get yourself into a company where the leadership really has your interest at heart. That's huge. And the fourth thing is you got to learn to leverage yourself. Today's social media, that's huge. When I started in the real estate business, we were out knocking on doors. Today, you wouldn't do that. You'd get shot.
Do you think that makes you tougher and stronger?
Well, there's no doubt that if you look at the older generation who understands that success is not an overnight thing. It's just like, listen, we're a private company, but we're private for a reason. And because we're private, profit has always been something that's been important to us. And I have to laugh because I'm surrounded here in New York by Wall Street, who's been pumping money into the real estate industry now for 5 years. And I have to compete with that. But although I'm private, we're highly profitable. And part of that is that ability to be very clear about what we're trying to do. Use the leverage, teach that to our agents, because the key to real estate is for the agents to understand they're their own business.
Absolutely.
They have to be the captains of their own destiny. So the best thing that we can do is to be able to say to them, let me show you how to run your own business. Oh, and by the way, in the Keller Williams system, you're the brand, not the company.
Wow.
You're the brand.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very different way to think. But that's propelled a lot of our growth, which has been totally organic.
Amazing. Well, Mr. Williams, it's an honor to meet you. Congratulations on the award,
Thanks so
and
much.
I look forward to seeing you again at some point soon.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you so
it.
much.